Hey everybody, here we are back again in my workshop. Finally, we had a few technical hiccups a week ago, and I've been on a little bit of a break for a few days. So I hope you've enjoyed the recorded videos that we've done. The last one that we done was making this beginner bowl. So you get your lathe home for the first time, you're all excited, you want to make something. My best advice always is go for something small, so a small bowl. And what we done last time was make this bowl and use a recess instead of a foot. This is the easiest way. If it's your first bowl, just expand into a recess nice and firm. So we're going to now look at other types of bowls over the next few weeks. And dare I say it, it is October now, isn't it? Is it October? No, what are we in? September. We're getting closer to October. We're getting closer to Christmas, so we're going to start making Christmas things in a moment as well, or the next few weeks anyway. I've been in the Christmas moment, I guess, for a few weeks now, because I write for Woodturning magazines and do Christmas articles, and they have to be done now so they can be out in time for the D-Day, as it were. So let's have a look at what we're going to do. Teak is what we're going to play with today, a toffee dish. So I've done a toffee dish way back, probably in April, I think it was. So a key dish, toffee dish, and it's a way of using up all the very thin pieces of timber. We used to do that I used to do it as an apprentice when we were going through to take all those very character boards, those feature boards that the wood mills used to leave for the cabinet makers, and transform into something that we could use as a turner. So that's what we're going to use. A lovely bit of teak there. I haven't said yet, but we've got Finn behind the camera. Finn's now finished university, so he's out there in the big world, and we've got Charlie starting college tomorrow. So like everybody else in the country, all the kids are going in different directions, and he's off to college. So unfortunately, that's all you're going to see of Charlie from now on. So it is Finn or Vicky going to be behind the camera. Okay, so let's have a look at today's. I might even get Charlie to come and say hello at some point today. We'll see.
We have got a question straight off the bat from David. He was just asking what UJK stands for as a long-term Axminster employee.
You really put me on the spot. What does UJK stand for? I'll bat that one forward to Craig tomorrow. I'm in my little wood turning bubble, and anytime someone says UJK or rider planes or anything like that, I walk the other way and let Jason and Craig and Ben and all that lot answer though. I'm really sorry, I don't know what the answer is. Team Axminster though are behind the scenes, and of course somebody from Team Axminster will, and I know Craig is watching at home or in the skills centre laughing his head off. So UJK, yeah, they'll answer that one for you. Who was that?
It's David Martin.
David, don't ask another question from David. Okay, right, let's get on with what we're supposed to be doing. A teak toffee dish. Now, you've noticed the lathe is different as well. I'm doing, or have been this morning, doing a couple of videos, recorded videos for beginner wood turners. So what will happen is they buy a lathe, they'll get sent a couple of emails with a couple of videos in, right, what to do next, how to start. So I've done one this morning on how to use your first beginner set of tools, and then a first spindle project, and tomorrow morning I'm going to be doing your first bowl with them as well. So it's a similar thing to what we done on Tuesday, recorded one there. But what I've got is the kit left over. I thought, why move it back? I've got another one to do in the morning. So my old lathes over there, or my trusty lathes over there, we're keeping this one here. This is the AC355. I've also got the Axminster starter kit. So you remember I've presented a video or two on these. So if you wanted to get your first chuck, the starter kit comes with everything, and we're going to use it on this project. So this is the SK100. With the 100, we've got a couple of holding methods here. We've got a screw chuck and a faceplate ring, obviously the chuck key, and the jewels that I've already mounted. So we're going to use all that sort of thing. Old lathe over there, all my chucks I usually use, we're going to use just slightly smaller version, the craft range, okay? So first of all, I'm going to use the chuck straight on the lathe. So we're going to screw that one on, get that one on there and out of the way. There we are. Now we're going to look at what holding method to use. So Finn, I think it's probably about time to come on over and have a look at the kit. So we've got two things here. We've got a faceplate ring, and you've seen me use faceplate rings many times on push plates or sanding discs. They're just a really handy way of being able to put things on the chuck and take them off without removing the chuck from the lathe. So that's the faceplate ring. Alternative form of holding would be a screw chuck. So a screw chuck, like the faceplate ring, gets held in its chuck jaws. Screw chuck on the internal part, faceplate ring on the external dovetail. So that's the only difference. My natural preference would be always going for the faceplate ring because I've got several hold points on there, and that's what I'm going to go for today. So we're going to use that another day, and today we're going to use our faceplate ring. So let's find my center point. I've marked it on here somewhere. No, I can't find it. Okay, in that case, I tend to make lots of discs. That one's the closest by look at fits, and with that disc we can then just pop a little center point. Top tip there, look, little cut discs. I've got bundles of these, all different sizes, from plywood, little Foamex, loads of them down in the corner there, just to get me out of little hiccups like that.
What size is the blank and what screws would you use?
Yeah, I'll show you exactly. So the blank size, I'll give you at both metric and imperial. Blank size in this case, so we're just under the 200 actually, so we're about, in inches, we're about 7 7/8, and in metric we're about 198 ish, and then the thickness about 28 mil, which is about 1.1 inches.
And Bill was just asking, don't you tighten the 3 Allen grub screws on the chuck?
You've got a choice here. Because I'm not reverse turning, I've got a choice. I either need to tighten them or remove them. So otherwise they just fly out and then you lose them. So that's going to be my choice. I'll be honest, this chuck's going to be on and off so many times, I'm just going to get rid of them. So literally just take them out. Get them gone. They're really good. If you want to do any reverse turning, that's what I would use. You just bite those on, and when I say reverse turning, you need to be careful with reverse turning. You likely reverse something to your register, because otherwise you're just gripping on a flat register. So I would put a little drill point in there and just do a little V on the register, just so those grub screws can pick up really firmly, if you want to do a lot of reverse turning. Okay.
And just another quick one from Robert. He was just saying, what calipers would you suggest for getting tenons the right size, and which are your favourites?
So tenons the right size. So first of all, I've been going on about this for ages. Speed size is really, really good. If you want to, and in a minute we're going to scribe particular size of jaws, and I'm going to use dividers to size my C jaws using that. So dividers, and then the dividers will give me a mark. Okay, I'll demonstrate that in a moment. If you're measuring external tenons, then I always go for just regular external calipers, and they work really, really well. I've been doing a lot of that recently. On little tenons, I wanted to show you something then, but I thought, no, better not. That'll be another day. I'm doing a little creation for Woodturning magazine, which I don't want to give you a sneak peek, but there's lots and lots of tenons involved in making that structure. And it's all using calipers. So we're going to use that. Well, I'll show you, demonstrate in a second. Screws was the other question a minute ago. This is my 4.5 by 25 mils I'm using. Good quality screws. These are wood spur screws. Okay, I'm going to use, because of the size of this little platter, I'm just going to use 3, but look, they're going in a fair depth. When I say a fair depth, I don't want them going so far that I'm going to have trouble getting rid of them in the form of the bowl. So just have a check, make sure you know how deep those screws are going. This is going to have quite a wide feature rim. If you've seen the little U one that we auctioned off right at the beginning of this series, back in March, April time, April I think it was, then you would have you'll know exactly the sort of form that we're doing. It's a little feature rim and used for toffees or keys, that sort of thing. They don't cost much in timber. A lot of the time you can use scrap wood to make them. They do look really, really nice if you can get a little bit of sap and a little bit of heartwood in there as well. Something like a piece of yew, a little bit of laburnum, walnut, all those sorts of materials. Now he's mounted on there. What we've got to do is close the chuck down. Okay, and the outside of this jaw's got a dovetail. We're now going to expand that dovetail into the dovetail on the faceplate ring. So it's ever such an efficient way of holding a piece of timber, and very quick. It means the chuck can stay where it is. I don't have to move the chuck at all. Especially if I'm making a series of these, you know, the chuck can stay in one place. Right, so I'm going to size ready for my foot. A little bit more light on the subject there. We are going to have dust extraction running today. This is Teak. It does affect me a little bit, so I'm going to wear my air shield as well. So my little APF 10 there, which is it blows nice clean air down my face. Finley has got a dust mask on, so he's all right. Okay, so let's size my dividers. What do I put in the divider? So we're going to be gripping a foot here. Unlike Tuesday's video where we had a recess and expanded into that recess, today we're going to clamp onto a foot, so contract onto a foot. So I need to measure the internal part of my C-jaws. So the little speed sizer, again, I've said this lots of times because I'm such a fan of the thing. Internal measurement, we're looking for C-jaw. Okay, so I'm just going to put the points. The camera can pick that up, Finn. Is that all right?
Yep.
Yeah, so the points from centre to C. And that's going to give me, when I start marking that, the perfect diameter for my C-jaw internal. At the, what we call the optimum size. The optimum size is basically a perfect circle. Okay, so I'm going to wear my head unit. Okay, the APF 10. The reason I'm doing that is to protect my face and to protect my lungs from the dust. Normally I'm wearing my goggles because you need to hear what I'm saying, but this time, because this affects me quite badly, I'm going to fully protect myself. So I'm going to have to stop and take this off every time that I need to talk to you. So a little bit more long-winded today, but we'll get there. So to start with, what I'm going to do is measure the foot. We're going to then cut with a parting tool, take out the waste, then I'll stop and we'll have a look.
Just a quick question from Frank. He was just asking, is there a technical reason you don't use the speed sizer with the tailstock centre and a pencil, or is it just a lifelong habit?
For me, that's quicker. What I'm doing today is quicker. Because if you notice, my tailstock is down on the floor, out the way. Because if I'm bowl turning, I'm going to want to swing the bowl gouge around. So my tailstock's gone at the moment. Yeah, I just find it quicker to do that with a set of dividers. That's all. All right, here we go. Lathe's going to start. Finn, can you hear what I'm saying through that? Do you reckon?
Just.
Maybe
not with the extractor and the lathe going, but we can at the moment.
We'll try not to run the extractor too much.
Yeah.
All right, and I'll lift the visor when I need to speak to you. So I'm going to start by just roughing this off, and then we'll size a foot, cut the foot in, and rough away the waste.
Just before you start, another question from Bill is just saying, how often do you need to replace the APF 10 filters, or can you just blow them clean?
There's a certain extent of that, yes, absolutely. What I tend to do, I mark all mine, and it depends on, so main filter here was, this was new on my visor on the 12th of May this year, but what I'll do usually once about a month, depending on what workload I've been doing, is just replace my pre-filter, and I will suck these out. You can give them a bit of a rinse off as well. Okay, you can see a little bit of dust on there, a little bit of a tap down the extractor, okay, just to clean them off as well. So yeah, so I'll probably get another month out of my main filter, and it was May, June, July, August, yeah. Okay, here we go. So size first. I'm running there at 1,000 revs. There we are, so that's sized in with the speed sizer. Now the parting tool.
People are saying that they can hear you all right without taking the thing off.
Cool. Okay, so now we're just going to drag back from the foot. Okay, we'll have a stop there. We'll have a quick stop there. Let's have a look at the timber. Just want to adjust the light. Now, teak is one of those timbers, it instantly gives you that stunning smell. Really, really pretty smell, a nice smell, but a really pretty a grain to it. It really works well. It's very oily, so in terms of sanding, that can cause issues, which we'll have a look at later. On this piece, that's going to be my foot. I'm going to tidy this up in a second, and it won't be quite as deep as that. And we're going to have a little feature in which I'll start turning in a second actually. We'll clean off this outside edge as well, but that's turning really, really well.
Is the backhand grip to deflect the shavings?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So what I tend to do, let me pop that down there a minute. As I pull this way, that's just literally protecting my face from getting a face full of shavings. Flute directions facing about 10 o'clock. No bevel rubbing at this point because it's an uneven surface. Same here, I'm not going to rub the bevel yet until we've got a nice clean surface, and I usually save the bevel rubbing, the push cuts, for a finishing cut as well. So we'll just rough out and then do push cuts. Okay, so we'll drop the handle down now and clean up that outside surface. Just make sure that nothing's going to touch the tool rest before you start the lathe. So nice low handle. Just going to double check that to make sure that we've actually got all of the old bandsaw cut away, and we have. So now we can start creating that feature border.
I'm just coming up to 20 minutes in.
So border done, that's going to be the width of the border. Now I can start shaping this around before I start cleaning everything up. Just note the angle of gouge as I do this. All of this is with pull cuts. It's with clearing cuts, roughing cuts. I'm not using the bevel just yet. Okay, so we got rid of most of the waste. We can now start thinking about some finishing cuts. So I'm gonna speed up a little bit, and we're gonna get the bevel rubbing now. So I'm just gonna take my mask off and swap my PP while we do this. We're not making quite as much mess now. So just for a minute. So now my bevel is the most important part. We're gonna rub that bevel and just push the cut around. see the shine coming off of this. That means we're getting a good glazed furnace finish on the bevel. I'm going to do one more of those, just a tiny little cut. All the way around. There, I'm going to stop that for you just to show you the difference between what we did get with the pull cut and now this finishing cut. You can see how shiny and how clean that is. So for our sanding, it's going to be a lot less work than if we just came off the roughing tool or roughing cut. Okay, so let's clean up the foot. We all right for questions at the moment, Finn?
Yep.
Yep. And we'll just clean that foot away. Just a little push cut. And I'm purposely now, unlike some of the other projects that we've done together, I'm purposely now trying to minimise the amount of tools that I'm picking up. I'm sticking to one set here, and the particular set is going to be the little craft, the Axminster turning tool set. Only because I wanted to demonstrate that all the tools I've got behind me, you know, just you only need that. If you're doing basic turning, these sort of forms, you only need a basic set. You might want more, but you only need a few. There we are. Now that might have surprised a few of you. We're using a little scraper. In fact, we're using the skew as a nice flat scraper. It's probably one of the finer scrapers you're going to get, the skew chisel, and it's there to take or to cut the places that we can get to with the gouge. Okay, so there we are. So now we're ready to sand that one up. Really, really quick, lovely little project. I'm going to put the dust extraction on. We're going to sand through from 100 grit all the way to 600. So I've got them ready for you. I might do a little bit of rotary sanding as well. We'll see how the scratches lie. If the scratches stay, then we'll go rotary. So 100 to 600. My rotary is on standby here somewhere. There it is.
We've got a question here asking, would you look at making a very long handle in the sense of making your own deep hollowing tool? For gouges, or let just come back a minute, Finn. Just on a show when we, in terms of deep hollowing. Yeah.
Okay, so deep hollowing, or hollowing. I've got a series of hollowing tools here. Okay, that one there, that's a Simon Hope hollowing tool. So that would be for all my small hollow forms. Works beautifully. I've then got a similar thing to that one. We've got the Evolution probes. Again, this is, I suppose, the furthest out we can get that one. Be about there, so we'll go the next step up again.
It was for, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, but for a carbide bit?
For a carbide, yeah, so carbide, that first one was a carbide. We've then got our deep hollowers. Now I would, my preference is to do very big hollow forms with this type of hollower. So that sort of thing, because you can rest back on it, you can lean it underneath your armpit, you take away all the pressure from yourself, you see. Smaller you go, then the more pressure on you. But as your hollow forms increase in size, absolutely turn handles bigger to give you less pressure. Yeah, absolutely, I completely agree with that. Not pop those out of the way. Right, then let's just quickly sand that. Won't take very long. Dust extraction's on. It's going to get quite loud, quite noisy, so I won't do too much talking. Teak, it really grabs your paper, so the later stages, if you're finding that really unworkable, sand with either water or oil, depending on the finish that you're going to give it.
Question from Keith, just asking when you're going to be setting up the slow grinder and the Tormek jigs.
Haven't got an exact date for you there, Keith. It's going to be happening because we have, or will be, in the next few weeks, if not a month away, setting up some new studios at Axminster HQ, in which case we'll need to be setting up new grinders and Tormek jigs. So it's going to be happening, but I would probably guess within the next 4 to 5 weeks. If that's too far away, then let me know and I'll see what I can do for you. Sander at all. We're going to put some oil on this and now sand with 600 grit to really get that grain up. So we can turn the extractor off just for the moment.
Bill was just wondering, how do you store your respirator to keep the chips out from the inside of the face screen? Do you have any custom storage, or do you just keep it in a plastic box?
We're using it. No, I keep the box. It comes in a really great box. So my box, I don't know whether you can see in there, Bill, just very, very quick. But behind this screen, and I just pop it in there. The lid's off, and I can just pop it in there because I'm not using it. Well out the way. Right, a little bit of finishing oil. I'm just going to cover this. This is, the whole workshop's going to smell of teak now for weeks, which is lovely. There we are. Pop that to one side. Don't turn the lathe on at full speed now, you will get a face full. That's me speaking from experience. So I'm just going to dry a little bit off. And I want it still to be quite wet. And we're going to sand with the 600. You've seen me do this before. There we are, that's not too bad. That's running about 500 revs.
Just a question from Dave, just wondering if you've already shown how to make the sanding disc and platform.
We have. When did I do that? If you go back through the archives, Dave, on YouTube or Facebook or Insta, I think I made that on the smoker. It's that sort of time. But keep the question up there, because I get to the questions and I'll answer that, so I'll find it, and if you don't find it, I'll find it for you and give you an indication. The platforms, guys, these are still bringing up questions. My sanding platform, just very briefly, because they are still bringing up questions. This is the Evolution tool post system. And all I've added to it, this isn't actually listed as a sanding platform maker or whatever. It's standard as a carving plate. But this carving plate attaches to this, and then I attach a piece of MDF or plywood. Works so well. These collars are available, only about £3, so I set that to the centre height here of the lathe, so I just pop it in the tool rest each time and it's perfect centre. So it's a great little sanding platform. That's those. Again, Team Axminster, if you're there, can you find the carving plate for the Axminster Evolution tool rest system and the collars for the posts as well? And Ben's ready with another question, but then quickly, again, we're using a faceplate ring on a piece of MDF or plywood, just slightly tapered so you can sand around it. And then I'm using the Velcro strips that we sell in metre-long lengths, and they're just glued on there, or they've got a sticky back. And then you can use whatever size of disc you want. You make the sanding disc to suit the abrasive you can buy.
Yeah, we've got a couple quick ones. Just one, what's the oil that you're using?
That's a finishing oil. That particular one was a Liberon finishing oil.
And what's your favourite finishing on walnut?
On walnut, it depends on what the project is. I've made a massive mistake once. I had done what I thought was a really nice walnut platter. I turned it a bit thin, if I'm honest, and then I finished it with a shiny coat of wax, and it made it look really cheap and plasticky. So my lesson there is not to go thin for thin's sake, and let the timber do the talking. So oil is a favourite of mine, I must admit. I'm not a massive fan on shiny surfaces on beautiful timber like this. There we are, that's it for the moment. Look how clogged up the abrasive gets with this oily teak.
Is the carving plate via Axminster?
Yes, it is. Axminster tools, the Axminster Evolution carving plate. And the new catalogue's out soon, so it's featured in there as well. There we are. So that's going to be my grip. Now the internal part of the jaw, let me show you. The internal part of this jaw is not a dovetail. It's designed actually to be a tooth. So let's have a look at that. I use it for a different purpose in this instance. So look, you can see that tooth. It's just a flat. It's 2 mil. We're going to use it because it's at the optimum size, because I've measured it. We're going to use it to just pinch on. There's no need to make that foot any deeper because the tooth is only 2 mil. So for this sort of size thing, absolutely perfect. If it was a bigger piece, no, I wouldn't use this method. I'd use a gripper jaw and take the foot off or something like that. Incidentally, next week we're going to do 2 bowls, or a platter and a burr bowl. We're going to start removing the feet. So we're just taking it to the next stage on again. So there. That was very quick, wasn't it? We just literally turned that piece around and we're gripping ready to do the inside. So all I've got to do, remove the faceplate ring. I always get asked how tight to do the chuck up, and try answering that one. So I usually reply, stop just before you hear the first crack. And there is a bit of sense to that. It does raise a smirk, but you know that resistance, you can feel the timber, but that resistance you get to, you go any further, you're going to start damaging things. So that's your point to stop. Okay, now I would prefer to go down to a smaller gouge. I'm not going to. We're going to carry on using that same set. The inside of bowls do tend to get a little bit noisy, so you might have to think about wearing some ear protection as well when you're doing this. Certainly for the camera it's going to get quite noisy, so bear with us on this one. You might want to turn us down a little bit. Right, so put this one back on again. So here goes, we're going to clean the surface off first.
How deep should the tenon for the chuck be to effectively grip?
This one's about 4 mil. Depends on the size of the project, depends on your chuck jaws, depends on your ability, timber, size of cut, size of tool. There we are, we've got a clean finish here now, so what I'm going to do is look down the back of the bowl as it spins, put a pencil mark as to where the outside of the bowl comes to, because then I'm going to start sort of cutting the feature rim and putting a little shadow bead in. So that's where the outside wall of that bowl comes up to, so I know I can't cut past there when I'm hollowing the bowl out, otherwise I'll have a separate rim from the rest of the bowl. What I'm going to do now though is just scrape in a little bead here. There we are, so all that is, it's just a little bead. It just throws a shadow and just gives a little bit of decoration on the outside edge. I haven't actually taken any more thickness away from the pencil line. I've just created a nice little convex curve there. Now we can start thinking about hollowing out. So I just want to explain what I'm doing here. So I'm just going to remove the visor, go back with our glasses. So I want you to just pay attention to where the flute's pointing to. So we're over that way, and the bevel, the back of the tool. Right at the beginning of the cut, you just need to pause. Don't get too excited, just pause. Then once you've got that little shoulder formed, you can then push and then move the handle round. Don't allow your forward hand to have too much influence on the forward momentum of the chisel, otherwise you're removing the bevel from the work all the time. Now all I'm doing here, I'm not cutting right to the bottom, otherwise I'll end up going through the bottom of the bowl. I'm just taking some of the waste out so I can start shaping or thicknessing the wall, and then I can start taking the depth away. So I'm just going to stop there. I just want to pinch for thickness. Poor old Finn's getting covered in shavings. I just told him to step back a little bit. That's still fairly consistent.
You're 40 minutes in.
Okay. So I'm a little bit thick down here. This is okay. Now you might see, and you may have experienced this before, I don't know whether you can pick out, but down here you can probably see it, there's a few little ridges. The ridges are there because I'm using this big bowl gouge. It's got a flat bevel on the back, and so basically, or what we're trying to do is push a flat form round a concave one. So what we're getting is the very front tip and the back of the heel in contact only. That creates those ridges. You want to eliminate that and also help with the finish of the bowl. Then just put a secondary bevel on the heel. That creates more of a convex curve to throw around that concave. Now we're quite thick here, so we're going to carry on, take a little bit more that way. A little bit more. There we are. Now that's us. That's enough. That wall thickness is fine. I'm going to get over those ridges just by sanding a bit heavier. We might lose a little bit more of that depth in a minute. Let's get rid of some of this waste now. Right, so my edge is gone from the gouge, so I'm going to just take a bit of a sharpen to that one. Ben, I don't know whether you want to pan around and see this. I know everyone's seen this before. You know my setup in terms of sharpening. It's a really effective one. I've got an Axminster slow speed grinder here. I've got a aluminium oxide wheel on my right side. This is for my coarse grinding, and then I've got a CBM wheel set up here for my sharpening. I'm using the Tormek grinders, as we were talking about a moment ago, and they're just a really effective, quick way of sharpening, really. I'm going to set up here in this grinder. I've set my position of the knuckle to position 4. I'm going to put a 65mm protrusion through the jig, and the bar is positioned so both of my steel discs there hit the wheel. And normally I'm stood where the camera is, so I'm just going to contort myself out of the way, and basically what that does is then takes all the pressure away from you. It creates the movement to give you that nice sharpen. The other good thing with CBN is you get far less heat build-up. So less likelihood of overheating the tool. I wouldn't be able to do that if I was sharpening with either carborundum or aluminium oxide. The tip would be too hot for me to touch. There we are. So okay, let's carry on and take the inside of this bowl away. We'll get him sanded. Now before we go right to centre, I'm going to check again. I'll check first with my fingers. So we're okay here. We're getting a little bit thicker as we get towards centre, so that just indicates that I'm coming up a little bit.
Bill was just asking, how did you know that the edge had gone?
It stopped cutting. It literally was stalling on me, and it was almost exploding through the timber. Just when it's a good clean edge, it almost pulls itself in. There we are. I think we're nearly there. I'm gonna, probably should never say it, but I'll do one more cut. There we are. So now we can get rid of that last little plug. Teak is one of those naturally abrasive timbers. It's got a very abrasive surface or dust. There we are. Feel it or look with your hands first. Make sure you've got no blemishes, lumps, bumps, that sort of thing, and then you're ready to sand. But I think we're okay there. Just checking to make sure we've got no screw holes left. And to be honest, I think we could just take a small cut there. There seems to be a ridge. Yeah, it wasn't very big, just enough to show. There we are. So now we're very quickly sand, because it's sanding beautifully. Dust extraction on, so nice and noisy, and I'll work way through the same abrasive, starting with 100.
Would you normally use hand sanding as shown, or an inertia rotary sander on bowls?
I use a mixture of both. Normally I'll use half hand sanding, half rotary sanding, just to get away from the scratches that you're always going to get with hand sanding. Didn't need it in the outside, I do need it here, so I'm going to go with a rotary sander as well before we go to the oil and the 600 grit.
And just another quick one. Barry was just wondering why you use your hand to support your wrist when sanding.
A bit more support, so literally that, it gives me more control, so you know, I can exactly what's happening. I've always done it. It's one of those habits that I've always had. I just find it gives me a little bit more strength. I've also got my hands quite close to my body as well, just so I can control where that abrasive is. Because you know what it's like. It's a fairly brutish thing. This will bully you around, so you've got to be fairly controlled yourself. I'm going to go rotary sander just for a little bit in there. Should be enough. And I'll go back to the 400, see what Teak does. There we are, so final bit of sanding now.
Whereabouts do you get your rotary sander from?
So this is that's my early Axminster one. They now come with wooden handles and a foam grip. Okay, so that's the deluxe sander, the Axminster one. They also come with two 50mm and two 75mm pads. Really nice short dumpy one.
Do you ever use the sanding heads from a rotary sander with a cordless power drill?
Yes, I'll show you. So I'm using these guys all the time, whether it's in a cordless drill or whether it's in the chuck on the lathe. They get used continually. Now I find them really useful, not just for sanding, but for polishing as well. Okay, so a little bit of
53 minutes in.
Sanding at low speed. Little bit of clean tissue. Basically, you can creep up. I won't go too fast at this stage. Can everybody see that? Do you want me to bring the light over a bit more, Finn?
No, it's pretty good.
Quite nice timber, that. Well, very nice timber.
Could you repeat what you put on for the finish?
The finish, this is a finishing oil. This particular finishing oil is a Liberon 1. I've run out my chestnut, so I'm going to use that for a moment. There we are, let's have a look. And that's him done. So very, very quick to swap between faceplate, ring, or screw chuck and chuck. Chuck just remains there. Now I can just pop that one off. And because we haven't tightened him too much, there's no damage on the back at all. It's the optimum size, so you've got maximum surface grip, maximum surface area. Beautiful piece of teak. See that right, Finn? Mm-hmm. Nice little toffee dish, key dish. Just for the entranceway, that sort of thing. A really pretty one. Alright, there we are then. So that's our our next bowls. We had our first bowl with recess. We're then going for another little relatively quick process. This one, we're using up those thinner pieces, those thinner bowl blanks that often get left behind. On Tuesday next week, we're going to go for a burr bowl. We're going to want one of my favourite demos. I call it floral feature because the piece of timber that I'm going to be using is a piece of elm. It's full of burr, some very, very deep fissures, some big holes in there as well. So that's going to be next Tuesday. Then we're going to finish up with a platter, and we're going to be removing the bases on these guys this time. So we'll be able to reverse, show you what a push plate is, just to remind you. So some more bowl techniques. So have a great weekend, guys, until I see you next week. I'm looking forward to it already. See you on Tuesday, same time, same place, my workshop. I've been Colwin. Thank you very much for watching. See you on Tuesday, 4 o'clock. Bye-bye.